Welcome to the Almost Perfect Podcast, a celebration of fuck-ups, failures, and falling flat on your face. This is a podcast that believes you can learn from experience, but that experience doesn't have to be your own. Hi, I'm Bob Perfect, and I'm a functional fuck-up. Let's learn from somebody else's mistakes. And today we are learning from Bonie Sithebe. Now, Bonie is a director, a producer, a writer, and the owner of Durban Motion Pictures. And last night her film A Valley of a Thousand Hills screened at DIFF, and before that it is screened at Cannes, so quite a big deal, which we chat about in this podcast. We also learn about the early days of producing in Durban that led to Bonie having to get rid of her car and her house. And by get rid of it, I mean they got repossessed. So that's quite an interesting tale, and you're going to learn a hell of a lot about the real life experiences of being a writer, director, producer in Durban. Of course, I need to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by you, which means you can support it by going to patreon.com/almostperfect, or you can just go to almostperfect.co.za. Without further ado, here comes the Almost Perfect Podcast with Bonie Sithebe. How are you living, Bonie Sithebe?
I'm living great, thank you very much.
I can imagine you must be feeling pretty good about yourself with your film here at the Durban International Film Festival. You got The Valley of a Thousand Hills, which is a great name, and especially if you're a Durbanite.
If you are, and you've never been to the Valley of a Thousand Hills, you haven't seen anything yet.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
It is. Actually, funny how I think the location came before the story. Because I've been there like a couple of times and I'm like, I need to shoot a movie in this place. And at that time, I hadn't thought of any film that I was going to shoot. But then when the story came, I was like, I know exactly where I'm shooting this movie. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I guess the story does work with the rural aspects of that area. But like, because also like Valley of a Thousand Hills is also so close to like everything else, which is like what makes it so cool. Like if you're a city kid like me, it's still this amazing escape, but you're actually telling a story from it. That's not the escape, but like that's where people are actually from. So where, like, what? Well, firstly, where are you from?
Okay, I'm definitely a Durban girl.
I imagine with Durban Motion Pictures, yes.
Yeah, hence the company name. I'm definitely from Durban, and from born in KwaMashu. Yeah, I think all my life I've been here, even though I do travel a lot, get out of the town just to
especially with producing.
Yeah, it makes us travel a lot, and I love traveling generally. And funny enough, somebody had asked me, what do I do for fun? And I'm like, film. Because I was just on holiday, and for me holiday is still film, because wherever I go it's either I have to meet some filmmaker or
other
producers or sometimes even scouting. I'm actually in the location and I'm like, I want to come shoot here. So for me, fun and film is like it merges.
So was there like a day where you were in the Valley of a Thousand Hills that you were just suddenly like, I need to shoot this?
You know what? Actually, it's not the first time I shot a film. I did a film for DSTV once.
Okay. Which film was that?
It's called Umalogazane. It's from Mzansi Magic.
Okay.
And I think we were scouting for, like, it's always about scenery when it comes to film, right? It's not always about, story, but it's like what is it going to look like? And for me, all my films have to have a beautiful scenery. So I've been there and shot a film, and it was from Mzansi Magic, and that was it. But I felt like I didn't do justice for the area, and I was like, I need to come back and shoot again.
Okay.
But I visit Valley of Thousand Hills quite often, because just to
recharge.
It's a beautiful place.
From what I understand, because I haven't seen the film yet, but I understand it's a queer love story.
It is.
And so what drew you to that?
Look, I knew this question would come. Because it's very funny. Like, when people ask you, are you telling a film because of the character? Like, are you related to the characters or whatever? Or is it your personal story or what's not? Funny enough, when the concept came, it wasn't a queer love story. It was just a girl and a boy in a relationship going through issues. But then, because with all my films, I always want to make it different than any film has ever been told. And we woke up the next morning and we said, what if this is not like your typical girl and boy? What if it was just two girls, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, and other than that, obviously as a creative, you want to explore other communities other than what you yourself, you know, you want to just go other. I have friends who are lesbians. I have friends who are gays, and for me, it's a normal world. So, like, I remember every time I talk about this film, it's like I don't want it to seem like I'm telling a queer story.
You're telling a love story.
I want, yes, and so that it's not categorized. You know, it's like we dividing ourselves and say it's a queer story. Is it? For me, it's not. It's a love story.
But that's what I like about a lot of the stuff that's happening these days in film and TV and that, you know, like there are a lot more queer stories, but like they're not these queer stories. I know. Like it's wonderful.
Yeah, as much as when you into the story or you can't ignore obviously the realities that goes around the same-sex relationships.
Yeah,
you know,
it's got its own
you still need to say,
hardships.
okay, yeah, we still need to say, come on, there's still discrimination. You know, there's still, I mean, the story does touch a bit of discrimination. It does touch tradition.
Because I can imagine with the rural areas and with,
Hence, I wanted to tell it there because I think most queer stories are told in
the cities.
Yeah, in the cities and where it's supposed to be accepted. But then I wanted to push it where people think, okay, this is very conservative. How are they going to deal with this? You know, so let's see how we tackle the story in this environment and see how that goes.
So, but like, I guess that's the thing. The environment helped create a bit more of the story.
Yeah. I mean, I think it deepened the story than if we had told it in the city. It's very taboo. Like, I remember, and I know this one guy who, the first time he saw this gay couple, he just couldn't believe, look, because he's never heard of it.
Yeah.
Like it's just couldn't, he couldn't even fathom. Like, I don't know if he wanted to puke or it was like, what? Like when I had to explain to him, because he was coming from a rural, deep rural, and it's like, he's never seen it on TV, he's never heard of it. It just come from the small community that there's, you know, a woman and a man, they have to have babies and that's it. And then suddenly there's two men in a relationship and he's like, what?
Even though it's been happening for thousands of years.
I know, but
your exposure matters.
You'd be surprised. Some people, are, like in some sectors of the world, are still like, it's just not real.
And that's why, like, exposure to these kind of stories is important for people.
It is. And then for me, shooting it there, I was really hoping also it will expose the conversations, and even because it doesn't mean that because they are conservative, there isn't people who are in such relationships. It's happening. You know, somebody maybe they're just not talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is I think the big problem for a lot of people. But since we're not queer, we don't need to get into that.
Yeah.
But that is something you explore in the film. One thing I do want to know is, why did you start Durban Motion Pictures? Because that's a big, like, task. That's huge. Like
Durban.
Yeah, especially because it's Durban, you know, like, and we've got a film culture, but not a huge one.
Look, it's getting huge.
It's getting there. I know.
It's getting huge.
Like, just seeing a lot of the films that have come out of the film arts and stuff, like, it's amazing.
And when we were naming the company, we wanted a big name. At first, it was South African film production, and we're like, nah, but there's so many names with South Africa. Yeah. So, but again, it's like, okay, why not Durban? You know, like, but we also wanted to be in the map. You know, that's one of the reasons why we named Durban Motion Pictures. And look, the company is quite old, 17 years. I know. Hey, and I remember we made our first movie, self-funded, used all our savings, lost everything, started from scratch, wanted to quit so many times.
The typical South African story.
Very typical. Like, I don't know anybody who's made a film and not lost something. Like,
there's their dignity.
For me, I lost a house and a car.
Yo.
Like, in consecutive years. Like, first it was my house. And then...
What did you did you use the mortgage?
No, I stopped paying bond because I invested on a film.
Yikes! That's wow.
Like, because
That's bold. You're a risk taker.
I was young, and I was very young, and I thought I would make money out of it. And obviously, I had another business, and I thought I would catch up within 2 months, and I never caught up. And instead, I lost. A year later, I had to surrender my car, went back to taxis.
Yeah.
But you know how us creatives, we can jump anywhere and we still
But
survive.
how did you feel then? Like, did you get depressed or like,
No,
did you just motor through?
You know, it's very funny. Like, as I said, I think creatives, we don't mind being homeless. And then
to a degree.
For some reason, like we adapt. Like, listen, I said to myself, oh my gosh, this is an opportunity for me to lose weight because
you gotta walk again.
Yeah. And where we stayed, because we had to move into a flat. And mind you, moving into that flat, we also got conned because there was another big story. Like, imagine you losing your house, you're finding a place, you're getting conned for your 2 months rent, and you had to, it was
that
like
is a South African story.
I know. And then I said, okay, the Texas where you had to walk like a steep hill, and I hadn't walked in a long time, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And obviously we had an office in town, and it was more like an incubation place with other filmmakers and people who knew us because they knew we would come to work. And then suddenly they see us getting off the taxi, and they're like, oh, where's your car? And I'm like, no, it's been repossessed. And they're like, what? Like I would say it as if it's normal, and people were so shocked.
I like
how,
that though.
Yeah, and I think that's why we never got depressed. I never got depressed because
you weren't ashamed of it.
I was ashamed of it. I didn't hide it.
You took a chance.
People knew, like, guys, our car's gone. Like the whole Audi. I'm like, yeah, the whole Audi. Back to the Texas. But from there, funny enough, it also taught me a lot also about how to invest in things. Like, I never bought car through the bank again. I saved money, and since then I bought my car's cash. Like,
so
nobody's repossessing my car, no matter how bad it is.
That's some good advice in general. I like that.
So it was a good lesson to actually go through that.
But what made you start that, and what kept you going? Like, because I mean, at that time, like talking 17 years ago, like, so much.
Yeah.
The Durban Film Festival, was picking up steam, and like, there was stuff happening, but like not like it is now. The film arts didn't even exist then, so there wasn't necessarily these avenues that exist now.
I'm actually a product of the Durban Film Festival. Like, when I'm talking about 17 years in the industry, I'm talking about when it was quite small. I remember, but so I could say the advantage is that I'm from Durban, right? I didn't have to travel to go to the Durban International Film Festival. And every year there was an accreditation for us, because we're also in this incubation with the Durban Film Office. So we would obviously get free tickets. And every year I would not miss, and I think that's what kept us going. And I think if I was somewhere far, the love of film wouldn't have been brewing if I wasn't close, to the festival as we were. Yeah. Every year I was looking forward to it. I was looking forward to meeting people that have made it, and I was like, hey, one day I will have my film in the, and I always wondered, how do you get your film there?
Did it seem inaccessible?
It didn't. It felt so impossible. Like even when we tried, and I remember when we were making low budget films, right? For Mzansi, and at that time, trust me, we made films for 100,000 rands. And at first you think you have a great film until you see other films, and you like, and then you submit your bad film, and then and then you get a rejection, and you're like, but why? And then you submit again, and you get a rejection, and then you realize the film is not good quality.
Or you realize you need like another 900,000 to make this thing even.
And that also seemed impossible because who's gonna give you that money, right? Yep. And there was a point where I'm like, I give up. I'll never get my film. At the same time, I pick on my mind. I'm like, but there is an opportunity. If somebody can do it, I can do it, right?
Thank you. That's my philosophy to everything. If somebody else did it, I can do it.
Maybe even better.
Hopefully.
So and then we kept on. So I think having the festival every year and me going there. And then there was Film Arts, and then I was part of the Film Arts, right?
Yeah, because this project's a Film Art project, yes. Yeah.
And I think I tried 3 times with other projects not being accepted. Maybe on the 4th time, then I was like,
I like
really?
How tenacious you are.
Finally? That alone, because every time you go to the festival, it didn't feel accessible, especially with the Film Arts. And the Film Arts was like a different standard, right? It felt like exclusive.
Yeah.
to those internet, like how do you, and then this you walk past these doors and they're closed and you don't know what's happening inside and you're not allowed in because
you haven't applied. That's the only reason. Because film art's actually great with that, with bringing people in and actually like, especially, yeah.
And I wondered, and one day I was like, how do I get to the inside those doors? One day I want to be in there. I want to see what they're talking about. And I heard about the pitching session. I'm like, I have a story, but why, So eventually when we got in, it was like, oh my gosh. And then it was great because we had mentorship. I'd met a lot of international distributors. I mean, for me, it was the first big thing, as much as I had.
Did you go to Berlin at all?
I was the first participant, not in Berlin, the Durban Berlinale thing,
the
but
talents
the talents one. Yes, yeah. I think I was the first one.
Nice.
I think I got rejected into the Berlin, but I've been to Berlin.
Yeah.
We were part of the Swift group. The sisters make working in film and television.
Okay,
we traveled together, and. Which I was like, oh no, this is amazing. Berlin is great.
Yeah, I think I read that in Mail and Guardian. I think.
Yeah,
yeah.
Berlin is great. I've been to Cannes.
Yes, that as well.
Yeah, I've been.
How was that?
Cannes is
because that's kind of the dream. Like
it wasn't the first time I was going. Actually, it was the third time. People think I've only been to Cannes this year. I've been to Cannes before, obviously through the funding. The government will take us as and the first time it's like. I didn't expect much, but it was for me to actually understand how markets work, how film festivals work, And I'm glad I did, now I can navigate any festival. Before it was so intimidating, and you know how big Cannes is, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's the dream.
It's the dream, and you think and you feel so small, and you're from Africa, and everybody else is from this.
There's Timothy Chalamet over there.
I know. And you like, okay. And then you also ask yourself again, how do you get to those tables, But this year, I was like doing it as much as it was smaller this year because I think after COVID, people still afraid to travel. Yeah. It was smaller compared to the other previous years. But this time I was like, I was sitting at tables with distributors. I was like, girl, you're doing this. You're the Cannes girl now. So I don't think you can go to Cannes for first time and master it. You need to go more than once.
Like the first time is just for the experience.
The first time is the
experience
to understand. I mean, you also sometimes just meet a lot of producers who are really not producers, and they pretend like everybody pretend to be big, and then you realize no, you haven't really spoken to the right person.
That's something I've learned with this festival over the years because I've been coming to this for like 15 years.
All
and like
festivals, those people are not producers.
It's like what? Where's the money? No, I've heard. I've heard lots.
Listen, and then you would pitch your story to someone, and they will pretend like, oh, "Where are you from?" And then maybe they say, "Like I'm from Paris," and you're like, "Oh, because they're from Paris, they're probably really big." And then you realize
they're staying in their one-room flat, trying to just hustle a production credit.
Hustlers. Like I would say, 90% of people in the festival are hustlers. Like, don't take it with a pinch of salt. You kind of really, but this year, like I really think I met the actual people that make things happen, and I've seen the work, and I'm like the actual investors, the actual and even if you have met them, you still have work to do because you can't just say, oh, I need money.
Like, you got to show them.
You got to show them that you deserve it, and it's not as easy as now I've met them. Is it going to be easy? Yeah. So it's like a gate after a gate after a gate until you open that one and you're like, oh, this is what I've been looking for
the whole time. It's actually like a maze.
It is. It's not straightforward.
But I guess the thing with stuff like this film festival, it does, like, because you get to watch the films and you see, oh, he produced that, she produced that.
I know.
They don't, like, and then you go, cool, what else have they done? And then you can, like, actually approach those people knowing, like, that they've done stuff. Like, whereas back in the day, I guess, like, that was less, like, easy to do. It's harder to find out who was legitimate.
Who's legitimate, yeah. And thanks to technology, of course. Now, look, now there's even YouTube. Like, a lot of things I learned on YouTube. And again, me also learning that not everybody's genuine. I learned to be genuine on my own. I had to learn things. I remember my partner and I had to even learn things off YouTube because we've been scammed a lot when people will say, "Oh, we this, so we can do that for you."
Can you tell me an experience? Like,
Okay, maybe things like post-production, for instance.
Sure.
Everybody says, "Oh no, I'm good at doing this," and then you realize, no, they can't, and then you pay money. And so we had to do we ended up being like an all-rounder in our company so that we get the quality that we need.
so do you guys have your own post studio now?
We do our own post, even though we do outsource things that we can't, like color grading and stuff.
Okay.
But trust me, even if we would approach somebody, we still do our own research first. Like, are they giving us the genuine thing? Yeah, we've got a lot of chances in this industry, I promise you. And I think it's also because people think they can do stuff. Somehow I feel like the industry is being undermined. Everybody says, I can do this.
But it's also because we're told to say that.
I don't know.
You're told when you're
By
a youngster
whom?
by older people. They say fake it till you make it.
Listen, I still get people who send films to us and say, help me distribute this. And I look at this and I'm like, no, this is not going to go anywhere. And then they're like, no, but that's a good story. I'm like, maybe it is to you, but I have 17 years in the industry and you telling me, I'll give you an example. Somebody who brings a series and say, I want to send this to a broadcaster. And I'm like, I've never made a series. I've been rejected 100 times. And you coming now with no experience and you think you're going to just jump over, it does take time. And people don't get it.
You do an online course on how to write a script and you
Yes.
do
It took I even think varsity will not prepare you enough to make a film.
Yeah.
Varsity on its own, a degree will not. Years.
it's being
does.
on set that helps.
Yeah, like years of it. And I know people who have succeeded. They will tell you about the years more than anything. It's not how great you are. It's also about relationships, proper relationships.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was just chatting to King Shaft before this, and he's been in the industry for like nearly 20 years, and this was like the first time he's had like a big feature.
Listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not.
When I say years, it's years. So don't come to me with the movie and say, I just shot the film out. I'm like, really? Are you really undermining the years that I...
I mean, yes, Steven Spielberg can do a music video on a cell phone, but he's Steven Spielberg.
He's Steven Spielberg, but he's got years as well.
That's what I'm saying. Like when people come to you with something where, but how, do people get upset about that, or there's some that are like actually like
they think you're blocking them.
That's
yeah.
What is that though?
They think
the arrogance of youth.
They're thinking you're standing in their way. Like I get emails like, let's work together, let's support each other. I'm like, it's not about me or supporting anyone. It's like work, We have I'm sorry, but South Africans feel very entitled to handouts and being given things like put an effort. Let's just put an effort into it, and then you'll see what's going to happen. No one owes you anything. And I think because South Africa also, like, look at Nigeria. Nigeria has made millions of movies, even though they started with
Nollywood.
Crap.
I mean, even
but now they're improving.
Yeah,
they're going Hollywood.
And but the thing is, even the crap is fun.
True, but they're also now improving and going Hollywood.
Yeah,
and
they're
stuff.
getting.
And those guys don't even have funding structures
like we do.
And I feel like we are very spoiled. Like people feel like they deserve
to be
given money.
That's a somewhat okay. Well, I was going to say the being spoiled thing might be a somewhat controversial statement, but I actually kind of agree with you, having been in the system for a while. Well, I'm not in the system, but I'm around it.
Understand? Yeah.
And like, there's funding, like there's opportunities, there's access.
Yeah.
It's just about learning the avenues to take and what's required from you in that to like actually be able to access those sorts of things.
And don't feel entitled to it.
That's I think
exactly. Don't feel because I'm a young woman, I deserve it. You being a young woman, so what? I just hate those things. I hate because I'm female. I should be and I still need to work hard as female. No, because I'm black. I deserve I should work hard for it. There's shouldn't be entitled to. Otherwise, imagine if the government gave everybody money because they're black or because they're female or because they're young or because they're teenagers. No.
I mean, I think every forum already thinks that's happening. But
no, honestly, like we need to work first and then maybe entitled later. And I'll probably will now feel entitled because I've raised the flag. I start by raising the flag of South Africa and say, look, I've made the best film in South Africa, in Africa actually. And and now, look at me. But I can't just wake up in the morning and say, "Give me money. I need
I'm
to
going to
make,
make the best film."
No. Start with work first. I mean, with this film, trust me, you should see it.
I'm going to.
We didn't have the budget we wanted.
Okay.
We didn't. My budget was very high. Like, obviously, me having started with lower budget films, I knew exactly that this film would need a bigger budget and what's not. And then it taken me like 2 years to try and raise that money.
How did you do that, if you don't mind me asking? Like, who do you approach for those sorts of things?
We approached the KZN Film Commission.
Okay.
And then we approached the National Film and Video Foundation.
Okay, NFVF, yeah.
And the plan was also to go to DTI for the rebate.
So what's the DTI thing? Because I see them like on a lot of things, but I'm not too sure what their role and stuff is.
They are a government structure that gives you an incentive.
Okay.
Not for film only. I know they do it at a lot of other businesses. So basically what they do is it's more like they refund you of what you've raised. Like, let's say your film is 100,000, right? You need to raise 100,000, shoot the film, and then they refund you the 50,000 back to you for having made the film.
For having actually done it.
It's like they meet you halfway. It's an incentive. It's a grant, you know.
That's something to check out for. Yeah.
Yeah. You should check it out. But so this is I don't know if it's a catch or what, but this is not as easily as accessible as I'm explaining right now, that they give you 50% back, but it is true. A lot of films have gotten the money back. So that was my plan as well. So I would have wanted to raise, let's say, 10 million, and then I would have wanted my 5 million back and what's not. But for me, first I need to raise the 10 million. For me to raise the 10 million, who's going to give me the 10 million?
Yeah, which is no easy task.
It's not an easy task.
Like getting 1 million is like about the max most of the time.
Exactly. So it's not only you raising the 10 million, is where are you raising the 10 million? So if the government gives you the 10 million, then DTI doesn't want to be involved. So they want the 20% of the 10 million to be self-funded. Not self, but
privately funded.
Private funded. And then where do you want to get the 20% of the 10 million? So that's where the trick was. So for me, it was me getting 20% of my budget, which was private funds, which was hard to get.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get the DTI rebate. So my budget ended up being 100% funded by the government. And then meaning it was a very low budget to what my actual budget is. And then I said, okay, it's been 2 years now, and also you are given a certain period to shoot because you've been funded, and
if you don't, you got to give the money back.
You're gonna have to give the money back. And I was like, okay, what do I do? So I need to shoot this movie. So I had to go back to the script and downsize it a bit and say, okay, what do I cut out? And cut out a lot of extra things, tell a simple story and what's not. But I must say, the advantage is that I've made more than 30 films low budget. So you know
how that works.
I know how that works. So give me 100 rand, I will make a film for you. That's how I pride myself, because I said, I've made a film with 100,000. I can make a film with a lesser budget, even if it's a big film. So look, see the film, the fact that it went to the can and what's not, it means it doesn't look like a low budget film.
Yeah.
So that was my plan. I was like, I will not make this look like a low budget film. I know now how to work with.
So what was that? Like getting the right camera people in? And
okay, so to be honest, I had built a lot of relationships within the crew because they were working most
people
of
you work
films.
with.
Yeah, so they were like, Bonie, we know it's your dream. We're not gonna charge you much. The DOP was his first film.
Wow,
I know he comes from.
That's a risk.
I know, no, but he comes from
photography.
No.
No. He's in the industry.
a DOP, but for feature, not for feature, so adverts.
I mean, that's good practice.
It's a good practice. Yeah, he does a lot of ads,
crisp stuff,
stuff. Which I'm like, oh no, it means you're good at what you do. So he was a bit nervous as well because he's never done film.
A feature,
and to that, he's English speaking, and this is a Zulu film. He was even more nervous, like, oh my gosh,
am I missing stuff?
He was like, kept on asking, like, what's going on? What does this mean in the culture? Am I shooting? Because it was the story is very cultural, so it's important how we observe that.
Yeah,
he was a bit nervous, but I think he did great. He's proud of himself.
I saw the trailer and it looked like it doesn't look like a cheap film.
It doesn't. So he's expensive because it comes from commercials, but he said because it's my first.
There's one thing you can invest in though.
Yeah, exactly. But also for him, it was like, it's my first feature. I'm not gonna charge you what I charge on commercials. So that's how I also was able to cut the cost. And he had his own equipment, which is a bonus for us.
Wow.
I know. So we cut a lot on equipment. We didn't use known actors, which again, it was my plan anyway.
But as we were talking about before my batteries died,
Okay.
was the casting process for this film? Because you were saying you didn't really want to use like an actor that you already knew.
Yeah.
So what was that process like?
It wasn't really that I didn't want to use an actor that I knew. It was, I haven't seen the actor that I know that would have done those characters. As a writer, as myself, you know how you're so descriptive to what the person looks like and how they act and what's not. And I'm like, but I haven't met this.
I was gonna say, are you like that with when you're writing your scripts?
Yeah.
Because you're directing your scripts as well.
Exactly.
So you get to put all the direction in there.
Look, I've made a lot of films, and this one for me, everything was very specific, right? It was because obviously I had time with this one. Compare, when you work for Mzansi Magic, DSTV,
quick turnaround,
television, like you don't have time. And sometimes you cast people that you don't want to cast because you don't have time. And
but how long are those processes like? About 6 months to a year?
3 months sometimes. Like I've done film in 3 months. Like in 3 months, I do 2 films.
That's crazy.
A year I'll do 8 films. So that's how, and I also worked in a series.
And is that just producing or producing and directing?
From writing to post.
Wow.
That, like, when I tell you I'm a machine.
Wow.
My company had learned to work that quick. I think television demands that.
Yep.
It's not a space I really want to be in because of that, because I feel like I'm not giving my 100%. Everything is so... I mean, as much as we do... we had highest rated films on Mzansi Magic. But
it's a great foundation.
Yeah. But at the same time, you feel like I could have done better.
Sure.
I could have done better. Like, there are stories that I'm like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful story, but I just did it in 3 months and it's not. Yeah, but anyway, so with this film, I had all the time from scripts. I had written the scripts over 2 years. I was very specific on what I want in terms of locations, in terms of my cast, the colors, the look, the feel, And then for the cast, so I was like, but I haven't met these people. I know them in my head, but I haven't seen them. So
that must be daunting.
Yeah, so I was like, I need to do as many auditions as I can. And I did. We had first audition, just didn't. Second audition, no.
How many people did you see?
Like more than 5,000.
Wow.
More.
So you really were like specific. You were like
very specific.
How did you know the person existed?
Because I found them.
But I'm saying, like, leading up to that, like, you go through the 2 processes.
I knew they existed because it's like it's probably somebody I've seen in my life, but I haven't met them. So it's I knew they existed.
It was just about getting them.
I just needed to find them. So, but even because my producer and I were in the audition room, and so when the 2 girls came in, I was still not sure. He was like, "No, these are the girls," and because we had to pay them as well. Because it's a love story.
They're going to play against each other.
They're going to play against each other. And then I wanted to feel synergy. I didn't want to cast one person one day and cast another. So we would do callbacks and say, okay, maybe this girl can come back with that girl. And then let's do it again. So we did it so many times. And then we kept on calling them back. And I was like, okay, there's something there. And my producer was like, these are the girls. And I'm like, really? And the Tenjiwe, the one in the poster, she's never acted before. She just came from varsity, studied drama.
Okay.
So I was a bit like, okay.
So she's done plays.
Yeah, but she studied film, but she's never done any stuff. She doesn't have experience. But she was good. But the look, she had the look. She had exactly everything I've described. So there was, the fallback was like, she's never acted. The other one has done television stuff, which was good. But she also had a look. So I was like, okay, we'll give it a try. And my plan anyway was just to have as many rehearsals as possible. So luckily we shot at the time of COVID, we had a budget for quarantine. And for me, it was to my advantage because they had to stay in a hotel.
And so they really get to know each other. And I had a lot of time with them. Went through the scripts. Yeah, so they weren't just getting on sets and they were like together.
Look, Bob, I've done so many films. I've never had actors that knew their roles like those girls. And I remember my crew on set, they're like this looks so real. Like they were feeling, because we did so many rehearsals, and normally with low budget films you don't have time for rehearsals, hence you struggle on set. So with them it was 1-2 takes, and if I take a third take it's just full cover. It wasn't really because I wasn't like every time it was like take 2, take 3, it was not the actors, it was maybe technical, maybe sun or moon,
Sound
whatever,
or-
or sound or something. But my actors, only maybe if they were missed one word, but they were just flowing, and I think it's because of the time we spent on rehearsals and and all that. So that's how I found them. Just had to go over and over with auditions.
So, like, with this, does this like kind of in a way feel like your magnum opus at the moment? Because it seems like it's like the culmination of like everything that's come before. Like, because this process wouldn't have happened with previous things. You wouldn't be able to
No.
like go through 5,000 people. You wouldn't be able to lock them in a room together. You wouldn't
Yeah.
be able to like do all of that. So,
Yeah, exactly. It's actually a culmination of everything that we've been through, everything we've done, the years that I've mentioned.
yeah.
They funny how I say, like, obviously I want to make the next movie. Once you are successful with the film, you're like,
Oh, yeah, of course. Like,
but at the same time, I know that I don't want to make a lot of films
wow.
because I wanna mentor other people how to make films.
Okay.
I feel like I want to. Making a film is hard.
And you do like all of it, which is even harder. Because like at least
Yeah.
some people come in, they direct. That's
Yeah.
it. Some people they write. That's
Yeah.
it. Some people they produce. That's it. You're doing all of it.
I know for some reason, like I've done things for myself, and I've never really been hired.
Okay.
Anyway, the first
relate
job I've
to that.
ever had. I know the first job I've ever had was writing for a series for Imbewu.
Oh, cool.
ETV. Yeah, I wrote for them. It was not my first writing, being employed. It was hard. But
Yeah, because those writers' rooms are hard. Like,
those writing rooms are hard.
yeah.
But I enjoyed it in the sense that I was giving my service, and when I saw it on TV, even though I'm like, that's my work day. Now I can service another production and still I feel good about it. Like, like what's the word for this? I don't know how to be happy for my own achievement. I don't know how. Like,
I don't know if there is a word for that.
I know. I don't know if there's a word for it. Like, right now, everybody looks at me and like, you've made it. But I just don't know what you mean, And I also feel, I don't want to be, what's the word? I don't want people to say, oh, you're the greatest. You're the first woman who's done this. Like, I don't really like questions like, how does it feel being a woman and doing that? The first woman to do that.
Yeah, don't worry. You'll never
I
get
hate
that
those
from me.
questions. and even me knowing that at DIFF, maybe I'm the only female director, I just don't like the spotlight.
Or for it to be on that because it distracts away from the work. And it distracts away from you
know.
as a person.
I know.
Like, I understand why it's done, and especially because like representation does matter. Like, obviously it's important to see a black woman, producing and directing films. But then, as I was saying, it also does take away from your humanity because you're not just a black woman. Like, you're Bonie Sithebe. Like, I feel like that must be such a difficult thing to deal with in the modern era because it's great that like these, spotlights are being placed, but then it also kind of sometimes feels like tokenism, I guess.
Look, I hear you. I'm probably a bit selfish when I say I think it's me personally. I just want us to look. Women and haven't been given a chance, mainly black women as well.
Yeah.
I think if you hold on to it too much, then it starts feeling too real and very sad, and then you start focusing on that instead of us getting up there and doing like I actually mentioned earlier about we shouldn't feel entitled because I'm a black woman because I'm a black woman then I deserve to be treated differently.
Yeah.
But let me do the work and then I deserve to be given that funding.
Yeah.
Because once we put too much focus on, let's support young black women, and then you find people all young black women getting in there and say, oh no, we need the money, but are they willing to do the work?
And that's also the problem is sometimes, you can, I know this just from, various different things where people are like, oh, support the thing. And maybe the thing's not being supported because it's not good. Like that, sometimes like there are obviously barriers to entry that are very real.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, like when you're just giving someone something because of an identity, it can lead to poorer work.
Yeah, it does. Look, it does. Like I know filmmakers who were given funding, okay, obviously because they're filmmakers and they're given funding, but then the quality of work, and I feel like me who's worked hard for that funding, then the person who's been given funding, if you compare, it's like, dude,
not on the same level.
Like, you know, so yeah, but we just need to work hard for what we feel like we deserve. But for me, saying that what was the question earlier? Because what was I talking about before we cut? We were talking about, and no, I said something about I don't want to be over celebrated. Okay.
Yes.
Not because I shouldn't be. Look, I'd probably be mad if they didn't say, "Oh, Bonie, you did well." Look, I'd probably be mad. But me personally, I just don't know how to react to it because I feel like, it was me wanting to make more films because I'm the best filmmaker when I know there are people who want what I have, right?
And you can help them get there.
Which I can help them. So I probably want to make this film that I made. I didn't really expect to make a lot of profit out of it. It's because now I understand how film work and money, right? Not all films make money, but some films are there to launch you launch your career. Some films are there to like for like a social story, like that you want to tell or whatever. And I know when I make a film why I'm making it. Obviously, if I make this, so when I made this film, I had an idea of launching myself, and not that I obviously I was known as a filmmaker, but I wasn't known as a director or somebody who can make a film that can travel. So I said, okay, that's the space I need as well. So I need to make a film that will launch me internationally and say, oh, okay, she's made a film that won an award internationally. So that was my plan from day one.
It's like most of the stuff you'd been known for before being from producing.
I've been known for local films. I've been known for television produce and stuff. And for me, it was like...
It's a good niche, but you want to step up.
It is a niche. And I felt like I'd reached the cap. I've made so many of those. Let me move, forward. So now this is my next step. And then after that, then I want to make a movie that will make money.
Well, now that you've got the proof of concept.
Exactly. And I know what type of films that make money. I mean, hopefully I succeed. I mean, it's not always a win.
I mean, well, at least your car's bought paid in cash now. So.
Exactly. So now because I understand the industry and I understand what works, who's buying and what they're buying. So now that's my next step. It's like, okay, make a movie that makes money. I don't know if it'll be the last one or I'll make 2 of those. But for me, let me not be the only one who does that. So I want to offer my services. That's what I wanted to say. I want to offer my services to other creatives because coming up with a concept is very hard. And I know I can never come up with base concepts.
Really? I thought there might be, as a writer, I would imagine.
I can, but...
Nowadays, you're more in the production side of things.
Yeah, but I feel like there's other concepts out there that hasn't been told that I would like to explore. Actually, I was telling someone that I would actually want to invest in other people's films. That's my dream. I
mean, as a producer, that is kind of...
Yeah, I really want to invest in other people's films. If I can go as far as being even a funder to those films, that will make me happy because I know the struggle.
Yeah.
And because now I know the good story and I know
what sells.
It's not nice to have a good story and not have it done. I had a lot of good stories that were not done. And because now I know all that, for me it's important that I discover those stories and I invest in them. So I'm hoping I win a lot. So but I would like to partner
or your next film makes a lot of money.
Yeah, I hope I partner with business people who would buy to my idea of let's come together. There's good stories out there that need to be told, and maybe I'm just saying I want to be an executive producer to other films. That's what I'm saying. I want to make those 2 films. I want to make money, so that people also believe in me as well and say, okay, she's made films that made money or made an award or whatever. Now I'm able to then help other people do the same thing because I don't need 10. I don't need 10 films that have 10. No, I don't think I do. Not at all. But I want to be in the space and I want to see other people flourish.
I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to ask you 2 more questions and then we're done. This one's from, so I've got a Patreon account where I ask the patrons to ask questions. And then Sim Slayer asks, how many films would you dream to produce in a year? So like, yeah, I guess that's the...
Do I dream?
Yeah, like what's your dream of like in a year, how many films would you love to produce?
Look, knowing what I know now. One film a year.
But you've done like 8 in a year.
That's the thing. But I feel like those 8 films did not have the quality that should have had, right? So now, what I know now, 1 film a year, and a good film, because before I used to think a year is very long, a year is very short.
Oh yeah.
So I want to spend my time in the scripts. I want to spend my time in pre-production. I want to spend my time in post. Like every department needs to be thoroughly done. So yeah, 1 film a year would be a really bonus. I made a film. When did I shoot this one? Last year. So this year I haven't done any film, but I'm working on developing a few scripts.
Okay. Are you going to be at the Film Arts later?
No, not this year. I didn't submit this year. I pitched the film in Cannes when I was in Cannes.
Oh, cool.
Yes. So I was able to secure some distribution.
Yeah, slightly a step up above the Film Arts.
It is.
Small steps.
Not that I'm going to overlook.
No, Film Art's amazing.
No, I'm going to go back to Film Arts definitely next year.
It's done a lot for the South African film industry.
No, for me, it has. Yeah. For me, it has. Like Film Arts, as I said, I'm the product of the Film Arts. I'm the product of the Durban International Film Festival. That's where I became who I am. Like I really want to give credit.
Cool. And then the last question I want to ask you is a question I ask every guest is what is a big mistake you made that you learned an important lesson from? So you don't have to be like focusing on the mistake, but like the lessons kind of the...
Okay. I think my mistake...
mortgage your...
I know exactly what I want to say because I also want to give a reason why I made those mistakes.
Okay, cool. I'm keen to hear it.
I made those mistakes because of the state of the industry. It's to be jack of all trades. I would say it's a mistake in the sense of like I would be a line producer, an accountant, and a producer on my own film.
Yeah.
And I think it's just right. If I could do it better, I would definitely want to hire those people. And with my last film, because I was a director, I had to take off the producer heads. I had to take off the line producer heads, the accounting heads. I had to study all those things because we didn't have the budget to hire those people. So now with this film, because I had a little bit more budget, and I said I also want to focus on the directing. And I said, I don't want to know what's happening in producing and directing. So I had to hire people for that. And I'm glad I did because...
Although, weren't you a little nervous about that?
I trusted them.
Okay. Cool.
Like a little bit. Because I'd be like, I would see problems.
You would see producer problems as the director.
But it was the best decision I've ever made because I learned also from how they produced my films before everything was self-taught. So I had to learn new things that I was like, oh my gosh, they're doing it differently than how I did it. And even though it was from a distance, but I appreciated that because I was like, oh, okay, they've done it better than, and I feel like that's why I think the production went smoothly because I did not be a jack of all trades like I usually. So that's I don't know if it's a mistake, but it's something that I don't want to do again.
Something you used to do by necessity and now like that you don't need to.
I don't want to do again. I really want to, I would like more people that in my team that have experience to do the things that, that I shouldn't be doing.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's that. Thank you so much. This has been such a cool chat. It's just it's just so great to see like a Durbanite doing these things. You know? Like as a fellow Durbanite, as someone who's grown up here, like seeing that things are kind of possible. Like, but now it's like, no, they're actually like possible.
Very possible. Yeah. They it just didn't seem real. Like, people will tell you that it's in a struggle. It's like eventually, like, that's why I stay away from. I'm here because female, whatever. I'm here because of those years, those sleepless nights. It had nothing to do with who I am, but what I've been doing.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a great interview.
So that was Bonie. What a tenacious person, man. I don't know if I would be so nonchalant about losing my house and car because of taking a risk on a film. But Bonie is clearly a bigger risk taker than I am. So I hope you enjoyed that chat, and I hope you've managed to catch some films at the festival. If you haven't, they are online, so you can still do that. You can check them out over at the Durban International Film Fest website. And yeah, man, it's been cool. It was cool to be on the red carpet again. It was cool to be a part of the Durban Film Mart and just schmooze and hobnob and send the pitch bible for Super Delinquent Squad to a bunch of different people and just be a part of the film industry for a week. And then go back to my real life, I guess. Although real life has been pretty cool too. Did some stand-up comedy the other day up at Stump Nose Brewery, and it was packed. We sold out. We sold all the pre-sale tickets. We sold more at the door. It was a fucking great time. People laughed, people drank, and were merry. So I'm stoked about that, coming back into the comedy vibes since the pandemic has eased up a bit. It's not over, but we don't know fuck all about it anymore because nobody's testing and there's no precautions. So who fucking knows what the reality is. But yeah, with that in mind, have been doing gigs again. Done 2. We did house sits and then we did this on the nose comedy, and both sold out. So I feel good. Like that's that never used to happen. That like in Durban, holy shit, fucking getting people to come to comedy gigs was quite, for me at least, was like pulling teeth. And now we're doing the things. So I hope it's a good sign going forward. Although I know people are like having less and less money, and I know that, like stand-up comedy isn't exactly, for some people, a necessary expense, but for others, I guess it gives them a reason to not fucking kill themselves. So how much is that worth to you? Although I know going to some comedy gigs has the opposite effect, and it just makes you lose all hope in humanity. Hopefully my comedy gigs haven't done that, hopefully, but I can't guarantee anything. Yeah, I'm actually going to be in Joburg from next week. Looking at the calendar here, I think I go up on the Thursday or Friday. I'm going up. I'm going to be up there for like a week and a bit just to visit my mom and my gran. But that also means I'm going to be doing some stand-up comedy. I'm going to be popping in for some sets wherever I can, depending on where the gig is at and if I can get there and who's running it and if I'm cool with them. Because I talk a lot of shit about people, and sometimes they hear about it, and sometimes they're like, fuck Bob. But most of the time if I'm talking shit about you, it's because you spoke shit about me first. Or you're a cunt. Like, there's either of those options. It's also possibly because of me. I don't know. I refuse to believe that, though. But yeah, I'll be popping up in and around Joburg, trying to do some sets. And then on the 11th, I think, the 11th is a Thursday, I'm going to be at a hooker lounge in Benoni or Boksburg. I can't remember. I'll tell you the exact details next week once I know them. But it's Eric Janssen's gig. I'm going to be headlining that. And I was like, dog, like, I just wanted a set. Because I was like, hey, can I come jump on? It was like, you're headlining. And I was like, no, I'm practicing, bro. I'm testing some stuff out. And it was like, well, the room is your oyster. You can experiment to your heart's content. So with that, like, yeah, cool. I'm in. I'm going to do it. It's going to be an interesting show, I think, since it's a free gig in a hooker lounge in the east of Joburg. And most of my material at the moment is about cult and AI and Elon Musk and those sorts of things. So let's see if we can make this stuff universal. And I guess it'll be a good testing ground for that. So yeah, that's where I'm at. That's what's happening. Don't think I got anything else to tell you. I've got no solutions to the world's problems, so I guess that takes us to the shout out. Every week at the end of this podcast, I give a shout out to the titular titles tier over at patreon.com/almost perfect. Now this is a tier, it is a $10 tier, it is the top tier, and you get to pick your title on this podcast. So also I want to shout out Marty Barrios. He's back in the Patreon game. He was with us, then he left us for a bit, and now he's back. So welcome back to the parish, Martin Barrios. And shout out to Rousseau, who is the storage clerk of subtle heresies in the Lesser Overberg region. Russell Grant, the Far East correspondent. Neil Green, the key grip. Karan Sleman, the almost perfect hedge fund manager. Vashendra Naidu, the spiritual advisor. Riz Ventura, a director of purchasing. Julian, our king. Karan Chetty, the assistant to the regional manager. Kath Jenkin, who is the inevitable ruler of the universe, and Queen Swifty. And Stephen Olivier, our executive producer. Of course, shout outs to our benefactor, who is anonymous. And shout outs to you for sticking through to the end of the show. As always, I will catch you on the flip side.